हरे 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 हरे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्वेत
Krishna,
हरे कृष्ण
Krishna Prabhuji,
हरे
Pranam,
कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna,
हरे
dear
कृष्ण
devotees, Jai Shri
हरे
Prabhupada,
कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे।
Manglasharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Thank you Nandakumar Prabhuji, Ritesh Prabhu, Vishwanath Prabhu, everybody for leading the chanting today. So let's continue with our prayer. Shri Radhikashtakam by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj. Okay, hopefully the screen share is visible. Anybody would like to sing today? Try.
Oh, I can try, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Kumkumakta kanchanabja garvapa गर्वहारी गौरव पेतनाञ्चिताब्ज गन्धकीर्तिनिन्दि सौरभ बल्लवेषु सून सर्ववाञ्छितात् साधिका मह्यमात्मपादपद्मदास्य दास्तु राधिका कौरविन्दकान्तिनिन्दचित्रपट्टसातिका कृष्णमत्तभृङ्गकेलिपुल्लपुष्पवाटिका कृष्णनित्यसङ्गमात्त पद्मबन्धुराधिका मह्यमात्मपादपद्म दास्य दास्तु राधिका सौकुमार्य सृष्टपल्लवल्लिकीर्तनिग्रह चन्द्रचन्दनोत्पलेन्दु सेव्य सीतविग्रह स्वाभिमर्शबल्लवीश कामतापबाधिका मह्यमात्मपादपद्मदास्य दास्तु राधिका विश्ववन्द्य यौवताभिवन्दिता पिया रमा रूपनव्ययौवनादिसम्पदा नयत्सम शीलहातलीलया च सायतोऽस्ति नादिका मह्यमात्मपादपद्मदास्य दास्तु राधिका रासलास्य गीतनर्म सत्कलालिपण्डिता प्रेमरम्यरूपवेश सद्गुणालिमण्डिता विश्वनव्यगोपयोषिदालितोऽपि यादिका मह्यमात्मपादपद्म दास्य दास्तु राधिका नित्यनव्य रूपकेलि कृष्णभावसम्पदा कृष्णरागपन्दगोपयौवतेषु कम्पदा कृष्णरूपवेशकेलिलग्नसत्समाधिका मह्यमात्मपादपद्म दास्य दास्तु राधिका स्वेदकम्पकण्टकाशु गद्गदादिसञ्चित मर्षहर्षवामतादिभावभूषणाञ्चित कृष्णनेत्रतोषिरत्नमण्डनालिदादिका मह्यमात्मपादपद्म दास्य दास्तु राधिका यक्षनाथ कृष्णविप्रयोगसन्ततोदित नेकधैन्यचापलादिभाववृन्दमोदिता यत्नलब्धकृष्णसङ्गनिर्गता किलादिका मह्यमात्मपादपद्म दास्य दास्तु राधिका अष्टकेन यस्त्वनेन नौति कृष्णवल्लभं दर्शनेऽपि शैलजादियोषिदालिदुर्लभं कृष्णसङ्गनन्दितात्मधास्य सिद्धुवाचनं तं करोति नन्दितालि सञ्चयाशु साचनम् हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
You want me
Krishna.
to
Thank
read this? You are giving a chance for others, Prabhuji, to read the translation, or should I read?
Yeah, if anybody else would like to read, then we can give them a chance, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Definitely, Prabhuji.
Yes, if anybody else is interested to read the translation. Then you can
Mataji,
continue.
please, Mataji, you please go ahead and continue read that. Thank you.
Krishna. Yeah, Shamakarna Mataji, you want to read?
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Her splendorous golden complexion steals the pride of a golden lotus flower anointed with a tinge of red kumkum whirlwind on. Her sweet fragrance mocks the fame of the aroma of a lotus flower sprinkled with saffron powder. She is fully qualified to fulfill all the desires of the son of the king of the cowherd men. May Shri Radhika bestow upon me the service of her own lotus feet. Her amazing and colorful silken garments make the splendor of red coral feel ashamed. She is a garden of blossoming flowers where the maddened bumblebee named Krishna performs amorous pastimes. She worships the sun god daily in order to attain the continual association of her beloved Krishna. May Sri Radhika bestow upon me the service of her own lotus feet. Her charming youthful delicacy negates the fame of the freshly sprouted leaves. Her refreshing form is worthy of being served by the cooling moon. Sandalwood paste, lotus flowers, and camphor. When she touches the master of the gopis, she dispels the burning heat of his lusty desires. May Shri Radhika bestow upon me the service of her own lotus feet. Although the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, is adored by other youthful goddesses who are themselves glorified throughout the universe, still she is nowhere near Sri Radhika in the matter of beauty, praiseworthy youthfulness, or other divine feminine opulences. There is no one in the material or the spiritual worlds that is superior to Radhika in the expression of naturally loving pastimes. May Sri Radhika bestow upon me the service of her own lotus feet. She is very learned in many transcendental arts, such as performing in the rasa dance, singing, and joking. She is decorated with many divine qualities, such as loving nature, exquisite beauty, and wonderful garments and ornaments. Even among the cowherd damsels of Raja, who are praised by the entire universe, she is the best in every way. May Shri Radhika bestow upon me the service of her own lotus feet. She possesses the opulences of eternal youthful beauty, eternal pastimes, and eternal love for Krishna. Her ecstatic feelings of love for Krishna cause the gopis, who are also in love with Krishna, to tremble. She is always attached to meditating on Sri Krishna's beautiful form, ornaments, garments, and pastimes. May Sri Radhika bestow upon me the service of her own lotus feet. She is graced with 8 ecstatic symptoms, sattvika bhava, such as trembling, perspiring, standing upon the bodily hairs, tears, faltering of the voice, and so forth. She is adorned with different ecstatic emotional ornaments such as impatience, joy, contrariness, and so forth. She is decorated with beautiful jewels that give total delight to the eyes of Krishna. May Shri Radhika bestow upon me the service of her own lotus feet. If she is apart from Krishna for even half a moment, she becomes stricken with wretched sufferings, restlessness, and a multitude of other ecstatic symptoms of separation. When she regains the association of Krishna after some effort, then all of her anguish immediately vanishes. May Sri Radhika bestow upon me the service of her own lotus feet. It is very difficult for Parvati and other exalted goddesses to attain even a glimpse of Srimati Radharani, who is dear to Lord Krishna. But if someone glorifies her by reciting these 8 verses, then she, who is delighted by Krishna's continuous association, will grant the sweet nectar of her personal service to that person, who thereby enters the assembly of her similarly delighted girlfriends. May God Radhika bestow her. Wonderful blessings on everybody, Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you for your mercy on all the devotees. Mercy
No,
of the Lord
Prabhuji,
comes to mercy of the devotees. So thank you for
Radhika
bestowing your
Stotra. Thank you.
showering. Hare Krishna. Shri Radhika Ashtakam ki jai. Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Grace Shama Karuna Mataji ki jai. Okay. Yes, as we are praying to Shri Radhika here, and this is on the very most auspicious occasion of Ashtami, that both Krishna appears on Krishna Janmashtami, and Srimati Radharani is going to appear on Shri Radha Ashtami this Sunday, is the actual day. So like that, we see there are 8 bhavas, and everything that Srimati Radharani has, every iota of her existence is pure love of God. That is the nature of a pure devotee, that they're filled with pure love of God. So our spiritual masters, our acharyas, who are pure devotees, they are basically carrying the same mood of Srimati Radharani, that they are having this pure love of God, which they are trying to freely distribute all over to all the world, to every living entity, not just human beings, but even plants and insects and trees, like Prabhupada was doing in Bhaktivedanta Manor in London, to the trees. And then he goes out for walks to all the living entities, to swans, to ducks, right, even to ants. So that is pure love, that a sadhu sees that in every living entity there is existence of the Lord, Supreme Lord. And the same mood Prabhupada is carrying on in Prabhupada Lilamrita. As we were reading yesterday, Prabhupada is now in Moscow, the Jatej Parivajakacharya, traveling all over the world, right, from Australia, Malaysia, Calcutta, India. Now he's in Moscow. And then we see how he was preaching this cult of bhakti. Like he says, this culture is so perfect. It is so well planned, because it is planned by none other than Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So again, he come in the mood of Radharani to give this love. And everything, like Bhagavad Gita, Krishna spoke, every word is perfect. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke, every word is perfect. So that's what Prabhupada was saying to Professor Kotowski, that this culture is so well planned that any thoughtful man in this world, if he gives attention to it, he'll be naturally very happy and attracted. So in that mood, he's continuing to share that. Yet every word like Krishna speaks is gold. Every word that Srila Prabhupada speaks is gold. We saw how he was defeating Kotowski in every of his argument in such simple, plain logic and scientific logic. So it was capturing his heart. So that is the mood of a pure devotee, that every word is tinge of gold. Yet Prabhupada, in his deep humility, like we were reading a few days ago, to his disciples, he was saying that I am just a glitter. You have not seen the true gold. That is, he was praising his Guru Maharaj. So that is the mode of humility. And we see the same mode of humility in his disciples also, like Shyam Sundar Prabhu, complete surrender to Srila Prabhupada, right? Gave up all his life, everything. They're all from wealthy, affluent families in America, left everything behind, and they're traveling with Prabhupada all over the world. So that is the mode of humility that we all should also pray that we may develop someday. Okay, so let's continue. So Prabhupada has now almost wrapped up his discussion with Kotowski, Professor Kotowski in Moscow. We'll continue from here. Anybody else would like to read today? After only 3 days. Okay, I'll continue then. After only 3 days, Prabhupada's mission in Moscow seemed finished. The meeting with Professor Kotowski over. What was left? The government would allow nothing else. It had not allowed him to bring in books, and now he had been refused the opportunity to speak publicly. Foreigners were not to talk with the Russians. He could go nowhere unless on an accompanied tour. So, with no preaching and no prospects, he stayed in his cramped room, taking his massage, bathing, accepting whatever food Shyam Sundara could gather and cook, dictating a few letters, chanting Hare Krishna, and translating Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada took a guided tour of Moscow. Riding with other tourists on a crowded bus, he saw elderly Russians going to church, armed guards stationed at the door. He soon tired of the tour, however, and the tour guide got him a taxi and instructed the driver to return him to the Hotel National. Shamsundar Prabhu continued to spend most of his day looking for fresh food. Hearing that oranges were available at a certain market across town, he set out across the city. With his shaved head and his white dhoti and kurta, he drew stares from everyone he passed. And as he was returning after dark, uniformed men wearing red armbands accosted him, taking him to be a local deviant. Grabbing him, they pinned his arms behind his back and shouted at him in Russian. Shamsundara caught the word "document," document passport. He replied, "Document, hotel, hotel." Realizing Shamsundar was a tourist, the officers released him, and he returned to the hotel and informed Prabhupada of what had taken place. "There is no hope in Russia without Krishna consciousness," Prabhupada said. Once, Shamsundara was standing in line at the yogurt store when a man behind him asked him about yoga. "I really want to talk with you," the man said, and he gave Shamsundara his name and address and a time they could safely meet. When Shamsundara told Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, "No, he's a policeman. Don't go." One day, two young men, one the son of an Indian diplomat stationed in Moscow, and the other a young Muscovite, were loitering near Red Square when they saw an amazing sight. Out of the usual regimented routine of city traffic, a tall young man with a shaved head, a long reddish ponytail, and flowing white robes approached. It was Shamsundara. Familiar with Shamsundara's dress, the son of the Indian diplomat stopped him. Shamsundara smiled. "Hare Krishna, brother." And he began talking with the Indian, whose name was Narayana. The Russian, Ivan, knew a little English and followed the conversation as closely as he could. The talk grew serious. "Why don't you come up and meet my spiritual master?" Shamsundara asked. Honored, the boys immediately accompanied Shamsundara to the Hotel National. When they arrived, they found Prabhupada seated on his bed, aglow and smiling. Aravinda massaging his feet. Shamsundara entered, offering obeisances before Prabhupada. Ivan was completely fascinated. "Come on," Prabhupada said, and the three of them sat at Prabhupada's feet. Turning first to Narayana, Prabhupada asked his name and his father's occupation. Narayana liked Prabhupada and offered to bring him green vegetables. His father, being highly placed at the Indian embassy, had produce flown in from India. Ivan was interested even more than his Indian friend, and Prabhupada began explaining to him the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, while Narayana helped by translating. Ivan inquired with respect and awe, and Prabhupada answered his questions, teaching as much basic information about Krishna consciousness as was possible in one sitting. Prabhupada explained the difference between the spirit, soul, and the body, and described the soul's eternal relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He spoke of Bhagavad Gita, of his network of temples around the world, and of his young men and women disciples all practicing Bhakti Yoga. Prabhupada mentioned his desire to preach in Russia, which was a great field for Krishna consciousness because the people were open-minded and hadn't been polluted by sense gratification. He wanted to introduce Krishna conscious literature in Russia through a library or a reading room or in whatever way possible. Krishna conscious philosophy, he said, should be taught to Russia's most intelligent people, but because of government restrictions, it would have to be done discreetly. Devotees would not be able to sing and dance in the streets, but they could chant quietly together in someone's home. Prabhupada then began singing very quietly, leading the boys in Kirtana. Ivan's taking to Krishna was like a hungry man's eating a meal. After several hours, however, he and his friend had to go. They would return the next day. Shamsundara began spending time with Ivan and Narayana. Ivan, a student of Oriental philosophies, was very intelligent and eager to know what was going on in the outside world. He was fond of the Beatles, and Prabhupada told him of his association with George Harrison and John Lennon. Ivan and Shamsundara had long talks about the ambitions and hopes of young people outside Russia, and Shamsundara explained to him how Krishna consciousness was the topmost of all spiritual paths. Shamsundara also taught him basic principles of Bhakti Yoga, such as chanting the prescribed 16 rounds of japa daily, and gave him his own copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Prabhupada showed Ivan how to prepare chapatis and rice and asked him to give up eating meat. Joyfully, Ivan accepted the chanting, the new way of eating, everything. Ivan was being trained so that after Prabhupada left, Ivan could continue on his own. Ivan would be able to feel himself changing and advancing in spiritual life. And after practicing for some time, he could be initiated. Ivan said he would tell his friends about Krishna consciousness. With only 2 days left in Moscow, Prabhupada taught Ivan as much as he could. In this young Russian's eagerness and intelligence, Prabhupada found the real purpose of his visit to Russia. Prabhupada gave the analogy that when cooking rice, the cook need test only one grain to determine whether the whole pot of rice is done. Similarly, by talking with this one Russian youth, Prabhupada could tell that the Russian people were not satisfied in their so-called ideal land of Marxism. Just as Ivan was keenly receptive to Krishna consciousness, millions of other Russians would be also. Chanakya Pandit says that one blossoming flower can refresh a whole forest, and that a fire in a single tree can burn the whole forest. From the Marxist point of view, Ivan was the fire that would spread Krishna consciousness to others, thus defeating the communist ideology. And from Prabhupada's point of view, he was the aromatic flower that would lend its fragrance to many others. Prabhupada's visit to Russia was no obscure interlude, but had become an occasion for planting the seed of Krishna consciousness in a destitute land. Srila Prabhupada had brought the movement of Lord Chaitanya to yet another country. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself had predicted that the Sankirtan movement would go to every town and village. Yet, for hundreds of years, that prediction had remained unfulfilled. Prabhupada, however, in the few years since his first trip to America in 1965, had again and again planted Lord Chaitanya's message in one unlikely place after another. And of all places, this was perhaps the most unlikely. During a brief government-supervised visit to Moscow, he had planted the seed of Krishna consciousness within the Soviet Union. He was like the needle, and everyone and everything connected with him was like the thread that would follow. Professor Kotowski had remarked that Prabhupada's stay in an old-fashioned hotel would not prove very interesting. But Prabhupada, unknown to Professor Kotowski, was transcendental to Moscow or any other place in the material world. Prabhupada had come to this place, and Krishna had sent a sincere soul to him to receive the gift of Krishna consciousness. This had happened not by devious espionage against the Soviet government, but by the presence of Krishna's pure devotee and his natural desire to satisfy Krishna by preaching. In response to Prabhupada's pure desire, Krishna had sent one boy. And from that one boy, the desire would spread to others. Nothing, not even an iron curtain, could stop Krishna consciousness. The soul's natural function was to serve Krishna, and Krishna's natural will was to satisfy the pure desires of his pure devotees. In a farewell letter to Professor Kotowski, Prabhupada tried to encourage further correspondence. You wanted to see the manuscripts of my letters. Therefore, I am sending herewith an introduction to the letters. And if you so desire, I shall be glad to send essays on these subjects. Vedic conceptions of socialism and communism. Number 2, scientific values of classless society. Number 3, knowledge by authoritative tradition. In a letter to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Prabhupada summed up his Moscow visit. The city is well planned. There are big houses and roads. And at daytime, the streets are busy with buses, cars, and underground trains, which are far better than American or English. The underground streets are very neat and clean. The surface streets are also daily washed. But there is some difficulty in collecting vegetarian foodstuffs. Still, we are cooking our meals by the cooker, which has saved our lives. We talked with one big professor, Mr. Kotowski, and Shyam Sundar talked with many great writers and musicians. 2 boys are working with us, one Indian and one Russian. So there is good prospect for opening a center, although the atmosphere is not very good. The embassy was no help, so our visit to Moscow was not so successful, but for the future, it is hopeful. Tomorrow, I go to Paris for one day, then to San Francisco Rath Yatra, and then I shall come back to London. Paris, June 25, 1971. Srila Prabhupada was lying on the couch in the conference room of the Indian Tourist Office, having just come from Orly Airport. 2 disciples, Aradhana and his wife, Shantanu, had come with him in the taxi and were the only others in the room. Since there was to be a press conference later, Prabhupada said he wanted to rest and he closed his eyes. At the airport, Paris immigration officials had detained Prabhupada while some 30 European devotees, none of whom had ever met him, had waited anxiously. They had glimpsed him as he had walked from the plane to the terminal building, and they had watched him carrying his sannyas danda with umbrella strapped to it. He had waved to them, holding up his bead bag, but then he had been kept from them just beyond a thin wall, until finally, after 2 hours, Paris immigration had allowed him through. The Paris devotees had not arranged a car for Prabhupada, so when he had asked for one, several devotees had run off to hail a taxi. When the taxi had arrived, Prabhupada, along with Aradhana and Shantanu, had started for the Indian Tourist Office, leaving the others to join him later. After a brief rest, Prabhupada opened his eyes and saw Aradhana, Shantanu, and Shyam Sundara in the room. The other devotees and the press would be arriving soon. As Prabhupada sat up, Shantanu offered him some mango, and Srila Prabhupada smiled. Yogeshwara. I sat outside the door to Prabhupada's room, eating the peel of the mango Prabhupada had eaten. My heart was pounding, and I had no idea what it was going to be like after having been initiated for a year and a half and having never met my spiritual master personally, but now knowing that he was just behind the door. Then Shyamsundar opened the door and peered out and saw me sitting there. He stuck his head back inside the door and said, "There's a devotee here. Shall I let him in now, Srila Prabhupada?" I peeked around the door, and Srila Prabhupada, who had been lying down on the couch, was now sitting up with his hand on his knee, very solidly, with a royal, majestic look. He responded to Shyamsundar's question by motioning with his hand that we could all come in. It was the first perfect thing I had ever seen in my life, that one gesture. So I came in and immediately fell flat on the floor. And then I understood that now I am with my spiritual master. Jai. Gradually, the devotees began arriving from the airport, and they came into Prabhupada's room. The press also arrived, as Prabhupada spoke warmly and pleasantly with his followers, encouraging them in their preaching and telling them of his own recent preaching in Moscow. Hardly any of the devotees had ever been with their spiritual master before, and Lochanananda began introducing them to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Vilas. I arrived late, and when I came in, I was mixed up with surprise, with elation, with egotistical pride, and with amazement that the Lord's pure devotee was there. I walked in with Ghanshyam, the boy who had started translating some of Prabhupada's book into French. The room was almost filled, and Ghanshyam immediately sat down in the back. I was the president of the temple, and I was very proud and puffed up about it. So I made my way all the way up to the front where Srila Prabhupada was, and I sat down right next to him. I looked at him, expecting him to look at me and smile or something, some recognition, but he didn't look at me at all. Lochanananda was introducing all the devotees to Prabhupada. Lochanananda said, "This is Ghanshyam. He is the translator." Prabhupada said, "Where is he?" And everyone looked around to Ghanshyam in the back. Prabhupada said, "Let him stand up, please." Ghanshyam stood, and Prabhupada looked at him and smiled and said, "Oh, thank you very much." Right then, I felt a little funny. I sat there wondering, what have I done? I walked all the way up to the front, and I'm expecting so much recognition. Then Lochananda said, "This is Hari Vilas. He is the president of the temple." Prabhupada didn't even look at me, and I knew, yes, I had made a big mistake. I began to realize this is my spiritual master, because immediately he had acted in such a way as to point out a great fault in me. Reporters began their questioning, and Prabhupada patiently answered them, taking advantage of their sometimes superficial questions to elaborate on the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and explain the Krishna consciousness movement. The conference ran 1 hour. As Prabhupada left the Indian tourist office, he found that there was no car to take him to the temple. While several devotees ran around trying to find a taxi, Prabhupada waited, standing before a sidewalk cafe. Thinking that Prabhupada must be tired from the rigorous press conference and his long flight from Moscow, one of the devotees asked, "Srila Prabhupada, would you like to sit here for a minute?" And the devotee pulled one of the cafe chairs out away from its table. Okay, let's pause here. Let Prabhupada sit and rest after this rigorous travel that he's been doing at the age that he is almost 75, 76 years old. 75, 76 years strong, I should say, as only our bodies get old, but his indomitable spirit is not to be curtailed in any way. Like not even Iron Curtain can stop Krishna consciousness, like we read. So it's amazing. And again, all this source and all this energy that these pure devotees have comes from the fountainhead, the source of all energies, which is Lord Shri Krishna and Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani's other name is Urjeshwari. She is the powerhouse. She is the original source of all the power in the world. And we see where this energy is coming from as these young devotees and disciples are realizing in just one gesture of Srila Prabhupada, their hearts are pounding, their bodies are trembling as to who this person is, pure devotee of the Lord. And he just, like we said, darshan matra pavitra kare, ei tomar gun, just by one look, one view of pure devotee, everyone gets purified. And how pure Prabhupada is purifying them, not just by his words, by his actions, killing the pride that is there, which is the root cause all of everything, right? The lust, desires that we have, Kam, that is the root of everything. From Kam comes Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Matsarya. And just as Balaramji comes to clean up everything before Shri Krishna came, all the anarthas in our hearts are cleaned by Balaramji, and then Krishna comes. And after Krishna comes, then the pure devotee comes, right? So now Srimati Radharani is going to come. And when she comes, she bestows, opens the floodgate of love, because she is the storehouse of love. She is the embodiment of love, as Ladini Shakti of the Lord. And so now we are so fortunate and so grateful that this month, like we said, August, with anger, unlimited greed, and lust, which are part of August, symbolically, all of them have been removed by Balaramji and Krishna. And now Srimati Radharani is going to come and open the flood house of this love of Godhead on this weekend when we are going to celebrate Sri Radhashtami. And may we all drown in this love of Godhead. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Anybody else would like to share any of your reflections, thoughts, anything that you liked from today's reading? Yes, anybody?
Prabhuji, one thing I can say today is Srila Prabhupada, whatever he is doing, activity always in his mind is always Krishna and for the Krishna. So that is what we have to learn. Like either he is in Moscow, he is waiting for a taxi, or he is doing anything, right? So always in his mind is Krishna, and thinking about what I can do for the Krishna today, or for the next day, or next week, or next year, right? Or the whole life. In that way, he spent whole life by thinking about Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So that is what we have to learn from him. Then only we can, meet our eternal goal of this human birth, which is the ultimate goal.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, and that is possible by what? Can you answer? When, how will we remember Krishna all the time?
Yeah, that ABCDEF formula, like constant consciousness every day. Like, because sometimes we forget, like we realize something, then next day we forget, right? So constant consciousness and constant book reading, constant chanting, and constant engaging our mind into Christian devotion.
Yes, very nice. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing. Yes, that ABCD is important. Association, books, chanting, diet, what we eat, deity worship, right? Everything, using everything in the service of the Lord. E for using everything in the service of the Lord, right? That ABCDE. But yeah, and then the Vishnu Smaranam, like you said, happens. Vishnu Smaranam is the third step in the limbs of bhakti, right? First is Shravanam, Kirtanam. And that's what Prabhupada said. Chant and hear, chant and hear, chant and hear, right? So everything starts with Shravanam, Kirtanam. Once we do that nicely, like you said, constantly, the constant ability comes with consistency. Right? We have to make an effort to be consistent in what we are doing. When we do that, then the constant remembrance of the Lord will come. The Vishnu Smaranam will come. Like Prabhupada says, then a devotee chants and he hears and he reads, and everything that we do, the names, the forms, the qualities, the pastimes of the Lord will appear in our mind. They will flash in front of our eyes, and we'll see in everything and everything. Like Prabhupada used to go for walks, he would see Krishna. Right? In everything, he would see the energy of the Lord. So that is what pure devotees can see because of the consistency in their devotional practice, the regulated sadhana bhakti that Prabhupada has given us. We should do that. When we do that, then we'll have the raga bhakti will awaken. With the raga, we'll be able to have anuraga, and we'll be able to consistently remember the Lord. Yes. Thank you, Nalin Prabhu, for that wonderful point. Hare Krishna. Okay. Anybody else would like to say anything?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna everyone. I was reflecting on a very important point that when one of the president of the temple came in and sat right in front of Prabhupada, thinking that he was very, very important person, and how Prabhupada, very geniusly did not pay attention to him and made him realize that he was doing wrong. So I think it is the feeling which comes subtly when we practice bhakti for a long time and we start thinking that we are the important person, or need some respect from others, the puja la pratishtha feeling, and which is not at all liked by Krishna and our Guru Vargas. So it is a very important point we try to remember while we are progressing in our bhakti, that we should not be affected by the number of years we are in the bhakti. It is more humility which should be built in, instead of the puja la pratishtha craving. So that was my takeaway from today's reading, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Yeah. If Prabhupada would say that, we can still think, right? And what he accomplished at the age of 80 years is just unfathomable. Nothing has been done like this before, and nothing like this will ever happen in the future. But following in his footsteps, if we become prideful, then we will lose that mercy. And as a pure devotee, like we saw, he can see anything and everything, not just physically outside. When Shyamsundar Prabhu told him that there was a man interested to hear, and Prabhupada told him, no, don't go there. He's a policeman. Like how in the world would Prabhupada know that? Just by hearing from Shyamsundar Prabhu, he tells him, no, those are policemen, don't go. And now here, when Shyamsundar Prabhu brings these two other young people, the Indian and the Russian Ivan, Prabhupada so nicely gives them time, right? So he's able to see, he can see, he's a Kaldrashti, he can see everything, past, present, future. And he can also see not just externally, but he can see internally. He can see internally into our hearts, all the impurities that are there. And, that is what a guru does, that he cleanses our impurities by being forceful, by being like a guru. Guru means heavy, right? So that is where the surrender piece that we have been reading about even yesterday evening, in the evening reading we were reading. It's very, very nice. Whatever we are reading in the morning coincides with what we read in the evening. It is like Prabhupada is there everywhere. Yesterday also we were reading about the spiritual master from the journey of self-discovery. And Prabhupada was saying that, like, it was a similar conversation Prabhupada was having in Stockholm, Sweden, with a journalist, and once in Los Angeles, California. And they're talking about the Guru Tattva, and how a guru is like a rain cloud who is carrying this ocean, from the ocean of mercy that Krishna and Srimati Radharani are. As a cloud, he's carrying this mercy and traveling all over the world and distributing this mercy as a cool rain shower. And so all the anarthas that are there in our heart of Kam, Krodha, as Adi Guru Balaramji comes and cleans it, similarly Prabhupada, as the pure representative, comes as Guru, and he's cleaning this in the hearts of his devotees. Hare Krishna. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. 6:38. We'll pause here for today. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। जगद्गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.